Our actual first story is a user submitted story. Yeah, our
Yay!
first user submitted
We have
story.
someone who wants us to talk about
Yeah,
it.
we have fans. And so the first story is titled, Does a Relationship Need to Have a Label to Be Successful? By Anonymous. I've been seeing this person, let's call him Michael, for a few months. We go on dates, spend 2 to 3 nights a week at my place, and he hangs out with my friends. Neither of us are overly needy. We both spend our own time on our own, but when we miss each other, we will see each other. There are no mind games between us. We both are also not dating other people and are not planning to do so either, as far as I know. Michael just got out of a very long and serious relationship in which his ex-partner required a lot of emotional support, meaning he didn't get to enjoy the social life that he enjoys with me now. I've never been in this kind of relationship before, a relationship in which we act and feel like a couple, but we don't have a label. At this point, I'm okay not getting married or living together, but I'm happy with him, even if we don't have a label. But I'm wondering if this type of relationship is sustainable and long-lasting. Okay.
I think it can be, for sure. I don't think that there is a right or wrong. There's no fixed formula for a relationships. Because I think I've heard someone say to me that I think there is a couple who met in a marriage for a few years already, and both of them have a long distance relationship that they would meet maybe 6 months or a year, and they make it work. I think it's just like whatever make both of you feels comfortable and happy. But as far as this can work is you need to communicate. You need to talk to each other and make sure that also for yourself, for the poster, maybe that I think that she's might still concern on certain things, but in general, she's happy. I think she's already on the side of I don't need to get married. We don't have to move in, but I'm not sure. Maybe if there's still some certain things in her mind that that she hasn't raised it or it's unanswered. Maybe just to clear those things out, but label or not label, unlabel, I think it's fine. I think it could work. I think that I know a few people who are very committed to each other. But one thing that they need to be very clear about is that we're exclusive. You don't need to be a label, but those exclusivity need to be discussed. Yeah.
I agree. When you first brought this story up to me, in private, I think my first response to you was, what is your metric for success in a relationship? Because she's asking if it's possible for the relationship to be successful. And I know some people, for success in a relationship, it's measured by kind of externally, how is their relationship perceived, And if that is the case, then obviously it's going to fail, right? Because, they want to be posted on that person's Instagram as the girlfriend, and they want to kind of have that external label.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people, they would feel like if they don't progress to that level, then it's a failure in a sense. And versus if you are measuring the success of your relationship more about internally, are you guys compatible? Does he make you happy? And can you see yourself being long-term partners with this person? You can be successful in that way. So I think it depends on what kind of person you are. If you're okay with no one else ever knows that you guys are boyfriend and girlfriend, but that doesn't matter as long as you guys are happy together, then of course it can be successful. But I think the first things that pop out into my mind are things like, if he gets close to other people in his life, maybe another girl in his life, and I can foresee you guys are at a party and he's like, oh, this is my friend, so and so, and in your mind you're like, I'm more than just your friend or whatever, But I think a lot of people I think you can say that you're okay with no labels until your relationship kind of comes into question, I can imagine that being an issue.
I also think about that you need to be very certain about this, and because it's almost as against the norm, that because usually the norm, people would just go like what you say, it's progress from like one point to another point. I'm not saying that this is no progression, but it's not the way that we used to. So I think that communication is very important, but I don't know, maybe we don't know how they are introducing, among others. Maybe they don't have to be introducing like, hey, this is blah and this is my boyfriend or my girlfriend, but by just the body language, how you also treat each other, people already know. You don't need more than that. But I think the most important thing is that if you guys are on the same page that we're not seeing other people and we are exclusive, I think that's it. I mean, everything is built on trust. So
I think this also ties into another story that we have, actually. So maybe I'll make that the next one.
Okay.
But I think this is like a modern day version of we've been dating for 8 years and he hasn't proposed. It's that like escalating to the next level, and people are like, why doesn't he want to? So when it comes to the labels, I would say I think that one of the real questions that they as a couple need to ask eventually, maybe not now because he just got out of a serious relationship, and I understand that sometimes it takes time to open yourself up to the next relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they need to be honest with each other. Is the reason why he doesn't, or any person doesn't want to have a label, is it because he doesn't want is it because he doesn't want to commit to that person, or is he just like doesn't see the value in creating a label, or doesn't want to like disrupt his life as it is now? I think that's a lot of the times what happens with people that, for example, are like, why do we need to get married? Like, we're happy as a couple, boyfriend, girlfriend. Like, why do we need to make this big show? Like, I don't, it doesn't matter. But sometimes I think when it comes to that question, it's also like, okay, shoot, I lost my train of thought.
I think that also I think what you're saying are very interesting to say, that being honest to yourself, not just the Mike from Michael, to be honest to himself, but also the poster, because I don't know, I just feel like most ladies that I know, they have some like life goal that I want to be engaged, get married, and also have kids and have my own family. So to the poster, if this is actually what you want, make sure you're not giving up on it, but be very honest with yourself. I think that don't try to adapt ourselves to be on the same page with the other person, but you are also responsible for your own feeling. You need to be kind to yourself. So I would say that be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely like you don't want to rock the boat, so you're kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah.
But I think if you're being honest with yourself and you're not gonna be okay with it, then it's not something that it doesn't really benefit you to ignore it for very long.
That's right. You can't hide it. You're gonna explore it.
Yeah, it's gonna. Well, let's move on to the next one, because I think it's quite similar, the answer, or like so. This one is in the relationship advice subreddit, and it's by a user called Live and Let Die. Okay, that's nice. The title is,
wait, what is his name again?
Live and Let Die. It's good. It's
wow.
Okay, so this one is titled, My 28 Male Boyfriend Gave Me 28 Female a Promise Ring, but doesn't want to get married.
I love the word promise ring. For some reasons, I don't know why.
Very high school. My boyfriend, 28, gave me, 29 female, a promise ring about 5 months ago. For some background, we've been together almost 2 years, living together for the past year and a half. Recently, 3 weeks or so, he was telling me it's getting about time to start thinking about having kids, and I agreed, and I told him I wanted to be married or even engaged before we started having kids. That's always been the goal. Randomly, we were talking, and he said he's been looking into it and doesn't think he wants to get married because there's no real benefits. It's just a piece of paper. He also added that we have disagreements and danced around saying it's mainly my fault we argue. He said he's not perfect either, but went on about my faults. He said because we have disagreements or hard weeks and with divorce rates being so high. He thinks that will happen to us and he will lose half of his stuff. He asked if marriage was a deal breaker and I told him yes. I'm not going to have your kids and wreck my body, cook you dinner, and do all the things a wife would do just to be your girlfriend for the rest of my life. I deserve that kind of commitment. I know he knows full well I want to get married, and up until recently he did too. We've talked about getting married and he has never said he doesn't want to till a few days ago. I mean, he got me a promise ring, and I caught him looking at engagement rings months ago. I'm just blindsided. He came back an hour or so later after that conversation and he said he isn't saying he never wants to get married or that he doesn't want to marry me. He just doesn't want to get divorced and just not ready yet. I said no one gets married to get divorced, lol. I've just been thinking and thinking about this because if we don't have the same goal, I'm just wasting my time. I love him and he tells me he loves me multiple times every day. We want to make big life moves together. We're trying to buy a house right now, but I don't want to continue based off of I'm not saying never, quote unquote. I hope that he will change his mind and be gung-ho. I know that just doesn't happen and my biological clock is still ticking, and I do want to have kids and be married. I don't want to wait so long and make it harder on myself to have them or not be able to have them at all. I'm so confused. Why give me a promise ring only to change his mind about it, then change it again? I'm hurt and honestly more sad than I can put into words that it's my fault he feels this way. As of right now, we're just continuing as normal, but I can't stop thinking about this. Should I stick this out and talk to him and see what happens, or realize I have my answer and move on? Honestly, need advice and needed to talk about it. Sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah.
What is gung ho?
Gung ho means like just go for it.
Like YOLO.
Yeah, kind of. Close enough.
Okay. You wanna share your thoughts?
I think the first thing that stands out to me, and also the highest rated comment right now, is I would pump the brakes on buying a house together. Tell him you aren't saying never, just not right now. Yeah, I like the another person's comment said, get him a promised mortgage, pay half the rent on a place neither of you owns. That's funny, because like, okay. So yeah, that's the thing. So you're committed enough to buy a house together, but not get married. That seems a little bit strange, but yeah, maybe
it does.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. That kind of like moving up to the next step with labels. This one is moving to marriage. The previous story was about labels even to like boyfriend and girlfriend. So he's saying that he doesn't want to get married because he's worried about divorce.
Yeah.
Getting divorced. I would say, I mean, if someone was telling me a story, I would say, well, it seems like the other person doesn't really have the confidence in the relationship to get married. And I think that this promise ring is just kind of like, it's a very small token that in the end doesn't really mean anything. It's not even really a promise. It's just kind of like, here's a ring, so you kind of like stop bugging me about getting married.
I wonder if she's wearing a ring, and when other people ask her like, "Oh, you're engaged," what would she say? Like, "Oh, it's a promise."
But I think the promise ring, you don't wear it on the ring finger.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like, hey, put this on and kind of like as a show that like I'm serious. So this is very like high school, when obviously you're not going to get married. Well, for most people, don't get married in high school, but was kind of like get to like give something to your girlfriend, and be like, oh, here's a promise ring, And to be frank, I feel like promise rings don't really mean anything. It's just kind of like cute. But so my advice, okay, her question was,
should she stay?
Yeah.
Should she stick around, or she should just buy?
I would say no.
What surprised me and threw me off a bit here is you shouldn't think about divorce right away. I mean, I think that maybe he used his brains more than his heart now. I don't know how their relationship is, but seems like, I'm not sure if I got it wrong, but they went through a lot of arguments, right? And then many times that he said that it's her fault.
And that's also a red flag.
Yeah, so I like, how can you want to have a relationship with someone? I mean, I understand that in all relationships, it's not laid by roses and it's all like fluffy unicorns flying around everywhere. But I mean, there are always a hiccup, you know, like we're time to time we're also like, you know, fight over like smallest things ever. But I mean, we would never say that this is your fault, this is my fault, this is her fault. But I think in this case, one, you're pointing most of the stuff that it's the other person's fault. Second is you already think about divorce and the settlement for the divorce is high and you will lose half of your stuff. And I don't know, like
I mean,
would.
You can get a prenup if he's really
I mean, if
worried
that's the
about that.
case,
Yeah.
but is that the case though?
I don't
Like
think so.
maybe he can just give this as an option. You know, maybe it's not just. Maybe she's not the right person that he wants to get married.
I think we have to pause.
Okay. There's few red flags already in the story because one, he kept saying that it's her fault every time when they are in an argument, which is a little bit off for me. Second, why would someone think about divorce already, even where they're not? Of course, like you would think about it, but I think that he used his brains more than his heart here. So I don't know if it's gonna work because I think that when you want to get married to someone, but of course, like in this case, he doesn't want to get married, but you wouldn't think about divorce right away and already calculate on the finances that it has to be cut in half, you know? So I don't think that it's the right way to go, and really, really take a pause on getting a house together because I don't know if it's maybe both of you are already in that stage of like that I want to build a family, but is this the foundation of the family that you want to build? Because I just think about some marriage that they don't want it to end, so they just, okay, let's have kids. But is it the right way just to have the commitment of the other one by having another commitment that need support from both of you, you know? So I think having a big house, or no, sorry, not a big house, but
Buying a house.
finding a house together, it's not a solution. It's just a way just to avoid the topic that you should be discussed.
I mean, they've been dating for 2 years already, and he gave the promise ring to her 5 months ago. And so they said that they used to talk about marriage sometimes. So I have a feeling that in the honeymoon phase, of course, like, oh, you know, maybe one day we can get married. And, you know, like people talk about their dreams together. And then as he is progressing through the relationship, he's kind of, in his mind, kind of maybe subconsciously realized that like, maybe this person isn't the one for me. But at the same time, he's comfortable in the way the relationship works and just wants to keep going forward pretty much until something better comes along. I mean, to be frank, that's kind of what happens. And then, and so I think he's like, well, at this stage in life, I want to buy a house. And maybe he's like, well, it's be easier if we get it together. But I think, yeah, I don't think his mind is, to be fair to him, he's quite straightforward that like, I don't want to get married. And I think she should hear that and be like, well, if she wants to get married, she's going to have to find someone else. So, I mean, at least he's being honest, because I know some people that get married even though they don't really want to, but they just feel like, well, I'm in my late 20s or whatever age they are.
Like time is running out.
Right, yeah. I think that's not good. So at least he's not like misleading her also. Or maybe he is a little bit, but I mean, at least he told her like, I don't want to get married. So give him the credit. So back to the anonymous email, right? I would tell that person that they need to really look at themselves and find out what do they really want, because ultimately only they can answer that question.
Yeah.
What is it that's gonna make or break or like make them unhappy with the relationship?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think for some people they might be fine. Like they actually prefer not to have labels.
Just be true to yourself. Like coming back to game, be honest to yourself and just don't hide or just put what you want like on the side because you just want it to work. Yeah.
And it's okay to not be in a relationship with no label if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, just know that, parents might ask you like, well, what are you? People are going to ask you, but
it's not against the norm, but it's not like what is usually, progressions of like the relationship.
So long story short, yes, it can be successful.
True.
Yeah.
I agree.
If what's successful is to you is just that you guys are like happy together, then yeah, you can. But I think there needs to be even a higher level of trust and confidence in your relationship because you don't have that like ring or label to be like, well, we're married or like, we're boyfriend, girlfriend. Because I think that does give a little bit of confidence, right? To a relationship or more like cement in the foundation. But if you are, very honest with each other and trust each other and open, then yeah, there's no need to really get married. I don't think a marriage makes a relationship successful. And I don't think being boyfriend and girlfriend makes a relationship successful. So yeah, I think you can.